Here's my latest find. I wanted a brush hog for the Ford tractor, and after searching around and looking at quite a few different new models and seeing what they had for features, and then looking at some used models, I ended up finding this one here. Actually, it was a long story to get it, but finally ended up getting it. The long story included also loading it onto the pickup truck, which seller didn't have a loader, tractor with a loader on it, so ended up having to drop a chain fall from a overhead branch and hoist it up that way and drive the truck under it, and it was pretty comical to say the least. Excuse me. Anyways, so I got it. Got it cheap. The obvious reason I got it cheap: it's real old and it's got some issues, but it's got a lot of positives going for it. It is a genuine Bush Hog brand. It's a model 305. Called the company and gave them the model number and serial number, and they said that serial number was unusual, so they're thinking it's a really old machine. They're saying it might even go back to a prototype machine when they were replacing the earlier cutters and first coming out with the 305s. So I guess the 305s were manufactured up until like 2007, or sold up until 2007. But apparently they may go back to as far as 1955. The last spec that they gave for this cutter said that it was 825 pounds, and this actually seems like it might be heavier than that. And the guy I talked to at Bush Hog at the factory said that, yeah, it's quite possible because the steel was thicker back then. The later model 305s, the skirts were welded on one piece. And on this model, these side skirts, this side skirt here and on the other side, are actually bolted on, so they can be removed, I guess, to be replaced if they get all bent up. This one's got a pretty good size bend up the front corner here, but it's not going to stop me from using it. And then in the back here, this is actually welded on. That doesn't come off. And then this skirt does come off. It's got a little bit of a different setup from a lot of the other brush hogs I've seen, or most of them have the gearbox mounted right on top of the deck. This one's got this frame, which apparently they used right throughout the 305 series. That basically it's a sturdy frame that supports the gearbox above and keeps the stress off of the deck. The deck, estimating the deck to be at least 7-gauge steel. Got some high spots here where they probably picked up and rolled the rock around in there a couple times. It's got a slip clutch on it. The slip clutch is not the slip clutch that I'm typically used to seeing on the modern ones with the springs. This slip clutch is a bit of a different setup here. So I did see in the owner's manual there is a procedure for testing that slip clutch and making sure that it's slipping, so I'll have to do that at some point. Gearbox has got a leak. Judging from all the gunk and everything stuck there, looks like there might be a leak in the gearbox, but it actually looks like it might be the gasket between this flange part here and the body of the gearbox, because it doesn't really look like it's been leaking around the seal, although it's kind of hard to tell. But that's another thing that at some point I'll have to deal with. I haven't even checked the level of the grease in the or oil in the gearbox yet. I'll get around to that. This pin, this lift pin on this side is kind of loose. That bolt, the nut on the other side there is pretty torn up. I already bought a new pin from Tractor Supply, so I'll grind that nut off and replace that pin. That's why this pin is cocked right now. It's kind of crooked. And I forgot to pick up some snap pins to so I got a temporary I got a large Allen wrench in that side, and I got a bolt on the other side for my temporary holds. This pin on this side actually looks like it's okay. It's pretty straight and it's sturdy, so I don't think I have to mess with that one. Got a lot of old crap on top here. You know, this is exactly what you don't want to do. Leave all this on there. That's going to hold the moisture on your deck and cause it to rust more quickly. But this one's still pretty solid. So there's a inspection hole right here. This allows you to get to, you can actually see the huge nut that you take off to remove the blades. You remove that one and then you spin it around and you can remove the other one. This is actually supposed to have a little cover that covers it. It's supposed to be held on, I think, with a little, there we go, right there. It looks like, yeah, that's a bolt snapped off right there that used to hold the little cover that covered this hole. So I just got done putting the drive shaft on. This was stuck. I had to oil this spring-loaded catch right here, and I'm going to tap that on. I just got done checking the length because the owner's manual, you can still view the owner's manual online for this cutter at the Bush Hog company. Their customer support seems really good. That's another reason I'm kind of glad I ended up with a Bush Hog. And I didn't buy a brand new Bush Hog because, quite frankly, the sturdiness that I was looking for, that cutter probably would have cost me, $2,500 to $3,000. So, anyways, basically what you want to make sure is you want to make sure that this shaft right here, the male portion of the shaft, sticks into the female portion a minimum of 6 inches. And if it's too long, you cut it, which if the previous owner had cut this or somebody previously had cut this, then I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be too short. But it seems like it's going to be okay. Right now, this actually doesn't lift very high. I guess I could shorten these chains up, or I'm not even sure what the deal is here, how these two plate pieces of steel, this whole rigging I got on the back of the tractor right now is the way it was when I got it. So I'm not sure whether or not that's all kosher or if that's, not supposed to be that way. Just got this top link from Tractor Supply. They only had 2 versions for category 1, this length and a longer one. So obviously the extra long one was not what I wanted, because this one right here seems like it's adjusted fully to the shortest position, and even at that, I might lengthen it a little bit. I haven't quite figured this all out yet. Really all I want to do right now is hook up the drive shaft and spin it a little bit. I want to see if it vibrates really badly, because that might indicate to me if I've got something really out of whack on the bottom there. So let's see what happens. I've driven it out here away from the house. This way, if I engage it and anything goes ballistic and goes flying, it's not going to break a window or hit a car or something. So another thing I forgot to mention about problems with this is the rear tail wheel assembly here. This where this shaft comes up into here is kind of sloppy. So I'll have to look and see if there's bearings that can be replaced in there, or what the deal is with that. This whole stack of washers in the top here makes me think that that's not exactly the way it's supposed to be put together. But more importantly, what's wrong with this is this whole tail wheel is sloppy as heck. And that's because right now it's got kind of a homemade deal that the previous owner that I had purchased it from, he rigged up something in here. I'm not even sure what he did, but he's got this pin. I don't know if this is the original axle or not. I don't think it is. I think the original axle is actually a large bolt, if I remember what it said on the parts diagram. This arm here is bent. I'm thinking he bent that in intentionally to shorten this distance, because what's going on here is this is supposed to be like a 2-piece hub that sandwiches the rim between it. So you can see this is this side here, but you can see it's all busted up. So I'm not sure how I'm going to address that yet. If these parts are still available, I could rebuild this whole thing to the way it originally was supposed to be, but that might be cost prohibitive. I might be better off just getting an aftermarket trailing wheel, like a Tractor Supply special, which is, I think they're about like $65, and then just reworking this axle. Which, just getting this apart, he tack welded basically this washer on this side, so I'm going to have to grind that off. And then this is actually in the full up position, and it seems to me like that's pretty low, especially here in the front. Probably only about 6 inches off the ground right there in the front, and I just noticed that, well, I'm not sure, but I think maybe it's supposed to be level. Well, in the up position, I guess it's supposed to be tilted forward. Well, I'm pretty new to all this 3-point stuff, so I'll worry about that later. Right now, what I want to do is I want to, like I said, I just want to engage it and get it spinning and see what happens. Another thing I wanted to mention was there's no guard on the PTO shaft. They put a sticker right here that says guard missing, do not operate. So basically, I guess the way that works is, looks like this groove right here might be where the plastic guard would snap in place. And then the theory being that if the plastic guard's in place, you can't read this sticker. When the guard's off, you can read this sticker, and it's basically telling you don't operate it without that on there. Which, nobody's around. It's not like I got somebody nearby that if this thing goes ballistic, when I shut it down and send something flying, it won't kill anybody. And luckily for me, my Ford's got this welded steel cage there protecting the driver. Because also on the front of this, there's just this band of steel that bolts onto the front lip of the cutter, and sandwiched between that band and the cutter was this material here. It's pretty tough plastic. It's almost like a rubberized plastic. I heard some guys use, one guy on Tractor by Net mentioned that he used a old conveyor belt, I believe, or no, it was old belt material maybe. You know, those big wide belts they use on old tractors. On some old belt-driven implements. You know, a section of that, cut that sandwich in there, that would work. I could also take this strip off, bolt an angle iron on there, and I could hang chains from the angle iron and have a chain guard in the front here. So it's going to be pretty easy to fabricate some kind of a guard for the front. The rear, I don't really need a guard because it's basically it's all heavy-duty decking there, so I guess maybe I'm not going to worry about that. All right, so over here on the Ford 1920, it's a 2-stage clutch. So there's this little thing right here that if you have that in that position, when you step on the clutch pedal, it stops the clutch pedal from going all the way down. That's only for when you're not using a PTO. That basically just helps you not have to push the pedal all the way down constantly like when you're using a loader, if I had a loader. But we want to move that into this position, and that now allows the clutch pedal to go all the way down, which engages the secondary clutch, which would disengage the PTO. Owner's manual said what you do is start the tractor, and in an idle, engage the PTO, and then release the clutch and slowly bring it up to speed. So let's see what happens. Alright, so well, unfortunately my little video camera there, stupid thing, the camera memory filled up while I was driving forward there, so it just suddenly abruptly shut off. So you kind of missed the action, but got my other camera with me. I'm running the video on that now. This camera probably has a lot better quality than my usual camera that I use, but my usual camera, it's one of these, what do you call them, flip video things. It's an older one, and this is what I use for most of my videos, because most of the time my hands are greasy, so I kind of really have abused this one and gotten grease all over it and whatever. Anyways, enough about the camera. So this is a better camera, but it doesn't have zoom. But anyways, I just drove through, and this isn't the path. This is from the quads and stuff. This is where I just came out. So it cuts, and you know, I think if I had it down lower, I just ran it through with it up like that. You know, I think if I had it down lower, it would probably do a lot better job of shredding a lot of this stuff. But I really don't want to tempt fate with the missing PTO driveline guard and the rear trailing wheel kind of screwed up. but I just want to kind of take a look and see. And yeah, the small stuff, it's doing a number on it. I mean, here was a nice little gaggle of saplings that tore up. So I think it's going to be workable. Certainly worth putting a little effort into tuning it up a little bit and seeing how it goes. But anyways, I guess that's going to be it for now. Alright, well, I lied. I decided not to call it a day. I decided to drop the cutter down lower and make another path just to see what kind of a difference it would make, and boy, did it make a difference. I completely shredded up that stuff that it didn't really do a good job on cutting, and I mean, it's a clear cut. I mean, that path right there that you're looking at right now, that basically looked like that before I drove right through it. So I'm real happy with the way this thing's working. You know, this is just all pulverized, nice, and sure, if I went over that with it at the low position, I could probably cut that down too, to make it all like this. Still got some sticks here sticking up, but I don't even know what the blades. I mean, I felt underneath there when I was buying it to see what the blades felt like, because the guy said he put new blades on a couple years ago. They felt like they were pretty peened up, but I also think when I looked underneath there, they got a real curve to them, so I think they might be what they call high lift blades. So I got to find out a little bit more about that and what that exactly means. High lift blades kind of makes me think that they're more for cutting grass and kicking the grass up so the cutter can keep cutting it and cutting it. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, I don't know. But alright, now I really am calling it a day, because it's starting to snow, which we haven't had any snow that stayed here. Every time the snow comes, it melts again. We've had a crazy winter. It's February 2nd, Groundhog Day. Don't know whether or not he saw a shadow yet, but I know that normally by this time we've got a pretty good snow cover on the ground that's here to stay. So it's kind of nice that Mother Nature held off long enough so I could play around a little bit here.